So we're about 2 weeks away from Arc 5 World coming to Duel Links. Finally, it's almost here. The reveal is so close. But today, I want to talk about my top 5 most hyped or anticipated Pendulum decks coming to Arc 5 World over the course of the next year. Now, the big thing is Arc 5 World brings two things. One is a really big opportunity for anime decks to kind of shine with brand new support skills, so things like DDDs or Melodious, Lunalights, they can get a huge bump because of their skills. And two, non-anime Pendulum decks have a second life of being somewhat viable in Duel Links, because we've seen time and time again that decks like Kwakimeru or Gaia or For Hire that weren't ever considered to be anywhere close to top tier in the TCG, well, they were that in Duel Links. So let's get some Pendulum archetypes in here. Let's dive right in. But before we do, if you're brand new here, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 50k before Arc 5 World releases. It's probably not going to happen, but as close as we can get, that would be absolutely incredible. So let's start off with one of my favorite design decks of Pendulum, Dynamist. And if you're not a fan of Transformers and the Dinobots, then I don't know what's wrong with you, but these are some of the coolest designed monsters I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! But they're a very battle-heavy deck in regards to their monster effects. They have a lot of effects that happen when you destroy a monster by battle, or if you destroy a monster you banish it, or just in general special summoning to the board. There's a lot going on there, and the pen scales themselves, they all have the ability to pop themselves to protect another Dynamist card from either destruction or from targeting. You don't get both of them, but if you have a scale lock on the left with both targeting protection and with destruction protection, you kind of have the best of both worlds in that archetype. But there's a big but here. Master Rule 4 size scales, right, that we know we're getting in Duel Links in the back row, they really hurt this deck. And they hurt it only really if we get given their really good trap card, right? But even if we don't, they're still kind of hurting, because the deck relies on its back row for removal so much, right? So you need to pop one of your own scales and then not have a disruption or a protection for when you need it, right? So you've got to kind of decide whether you want this protection or you want this back row that could be the difference between game and not having game. So what kind of back row cards do they have? Well, they have a Tenki, which is just a really good searching out Dynamist card, but also it makes it so a Dynamist bounces back to your hand once per turn instead of going to the extra deck. So you can decide, do I want this to be in my extra deck, or do I want to wait till next turn to start my Pendulum Summon for next turn if I need it? That's a very cool thing. They also have a trapped equivalent of Michiza for any card on the field, which, you know, is fine. And also, one of the most busted trap cards in the game that when you activate it, you just set your Pendulum scales from your deck. You get 2 scales up, and also it's a continuous, once per turn, bounce of an opponent's card. You were to say play the first, the Dynamist charge, right? The Tenki, search out. You then couldn't set up your back row, your Pendulum scales, with Dynamite Howling. You just couldn't do that. Which is why Master Rule 4 kind of back row Pendulums really hurts Dynamist, but I'm hoping that they can pull through and find some cool combos to make them actually work in Duel Links. Next up, the Age of Gauge is here with Desk Bots. It's an archetype we have in Duel Links already. We have all of the non-penned main deck stuff, which is very good. They're all very cheap budget cards, and they're another very battle-reliant deck, but they are technically an anime deck used by one of the very side characters, so we probably won't see a skill for them, but it'd be pretty cool if they did reference it in some way, or maybe give them via events. That could be very cool. And all their pen scales are all high-level Despot options, so all your normal summons are going to be your main 1, 2, 3, and 4, the ones you have in Duel Links already, and the Pendulum summons are going to be the ones you summon via a Pendulum summon, and gain attack based on the number of Despots in either your graveyard or your extra deck, which means there's an element of resource management to it. You don't want to just spam your entire board if you have no cards in your extra deck or no cards in your graveyard to actually give them attack points to make them worthwhile in the battle phase. But they do have some good effects, right? We have 005, which on summon pops a back row, and if destroyed in the Pendulum scale, it floats into a bot in the graveyard. So your Pendulum's popped, you then float into a Deskbot 004 from the graveyard. 006 changes monster battle position. 007 makes other Despots untargetable for an attack, and 008 makes other Despot cards targetable for card effects. So there's some cool synergy there, right? Again, they're kind of like, a lot of these Pendulum decks, right, are very battle heavy, and Despots have a bit more control to them, but in general, you go into the battle phase, you're going to make a big boy, you're going to deal no damage, you're going to pick apart their board, and with Pendulums over time, just keep grinding out the resource game and hope to come out on top. Speaking of big boys that come out on the field and just do not very much, we have Ignites. These are a strength in numbers deck, so they don't really do anything, right? All the Pendulums are vanilla Pendulums with Pendulum effects that you can pop both your scales to search out any Fire Warrior from your deck or graveyard, so you do just kind of keep searching through your deck very, very quickly to get more scales up, to get bigger monsters on the board, and in my opinion, the main strat in Duel Links right now, if we got them, would be to establish a big board, set some things like Book of Moon, and maybe go for an Xyz summon and try and work that into the deck. And they could also be used with the Infinite Noble Knight cards and Gear Freed stuff if we get them ever in the future. I think we will, and they would be kind of good with that. But they do also have 2 main deck non-pens that give you some form of back row removal by bouncing Ignites you control to place either monsters or back row to the bottom of your opponent's deck, which isn't too bad, but also Ignite Burst, which is a continuous trap card that can bounce for up to 3. But again, resource management is going to be a very key part of this deck because you don't want to search out too quickly to then not have anything to go into next turn to kind of set up your board for Pendulum Summon. You want to make sure you have enough cards to actually play the game. Then we move on to another anime archetype in Yasenju, a card, a deck we have in Duel Links already, a very good deck in Duel Links. If you want to hit King of Games, Yasenju's is a very fun, very cheesy deck in Duel Links. And it's an anime deck in the sense that one of our characters, Silvio, he actually used it, but it wasn't really his main deck. His main deck was Abyss Actors, and so we might get 1 or 2 skills focused around Yasenju's, right? That could be kind of the best we hope for. The deck doesn't really need their Pendulums, especially in, in Duel Links format 3 zones. They don't really need, you're not seeing Yasenju's right now struggle because of only having, what they can do, right? They struggle because of the 3 zones as well, right? Because what you want to do, really, is summon out your entire hand, get multiple bounces on the board, and then maybe go for an Xyz summon or just bounce back to hand and set your back row. And that kind of conflicts with how Yasenju's kind of play. And so the Pend Yasenju's, they are, we have 2 sets. We have the Shinchi set and the big boss monster, the Maya Senju's, which are the coolest ones, which on summon can bounce 1 or 2 cards, but they then go back to the hand at the end of the turn, so they're kind of like spirit monsters in a way, which is it's pretty cool, but they have more support to come than just Pendulums, right? They have some troop monsters and a spell card that can set the scales directly from the deck but destroy them in the end phase, or Yasen Whirlwind, which is my favourite card, that gives you 1 more interruption during your end phase for bouncing a card your opponent controls when a card you control is bounced back to the hand, which you're doing every turn, right? You're summoning your Senju's out, you're getting a draw, you're getting a pop, you're attacking in or whatever, and then you're bouncing back to hand, and Whirlwind gives you 1 more bounce. If you couldn't out a big monster, for example, right, you didn't have access to the Karma 1, but turn 1 you had the Whirlwind, you had the Karma 2, and whatever, you bounce the back to the hand, bounce the monster back, but the Whirlwind, it has to be activated or it gets destroyed. So it's a high risk, high reward card. And finally, Ghost Beef and Mild Turkey. No. We're going to talk about Metalfoes, right? Because these are probably the most meta-relevant deck on this list, and they're a Fusion and Pendulum hybrid deck. We don't really see too much in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so they're most similar to Ignites, right? Being both fire, but they have an actual strategy that isn't just strength in numbers, which makes them infinitely more viable. And all the pens bar 1 have a Pendulum effect to destroy 1 other face-up card you control to set a Metalfoes spell trap card from your deck face down on the field, which can fuel the extra for Pendulum summons right if you pop out the Metalfoes card, but also, mainly, you're searching out your fusion spells, right? To then use with Metalfoes Fusion to actually go into these fusion monsters, which are all kind of generic, right? They all require a Metalfoes monster plus X, so it might be a normal monster, or a monster with X attack points, or X defense points, and so you could have a very, very fun time with this deck, and combine it with one of their best fusions, Metalfoes Alcahest, which is a quick effect relinquish basically, which you can then use that material as a fusion material for your Metalfoes Fusion. It's a very fun little deck, a very fun package, right? That is very splashable into other decks, and it's very good for decks that benefit from destruction. So Fire King Metalfoes, anyone, that could be a very fun strategy for popping their cards, getting your back row removal with your Phoenix or whatever, but also getting out your big Pendulum Fusion cards and then attacking in, stealing their monsters. That could be, it's kind of like Ignites and Gem Knights had a very cool baby that can be splashed to any deck, and I think is the most meta relevant of these, of these archetypes. They don't necessarily get hurt by Master of 4 Pendulums that much, but overall, those are my 5 most hyped Pendulum decks coming, or hopefully coming to Duel Links in next year. Of course, we could talk about DDDs, or Odd Eyes, Magicians, that kind of thing, but those are kind of accounted for, right? We know we're getting them, we know that they're going to get some broken anime bullshit skills, you know, especially Odd Eyes and Magicians, right? That could be mental if Konami don't actually, like, treat them with care and work out what to do with them, because we saw in a TCG, right, that deck, the Odd Eyes Magician Perform Power deck, certain cards in that, you know, Skullcrobat Joker, Monkey Board, they turned that deck into a very, very quick tier 0 deck. And so, whether the 3 zones in Duel Links is enough, the 4 hand size is enough, we'll have to wait and see. But I see them being very cautious with that deck, and so, yeah. Let me down below what you think of Arc 5 World coming to Duel Links. It's 2 weeks away, we're so close. Anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see you all in the next Duel Links video. See you then.